Just chill.
My son, my son has always been quiet as a teenager. Instead of the usual grumpy teen, I got lucky and he decided to avoid me for most of his early to mid-teenage years. I was alright with this and basically allowed it, with some exception, knowing that my teenage years were hell and not wanting that for him. I allowed him to separate into his own little world. I have known about his masturbation and sexuality since it became first common,
Oh my god, that's funny.
around age 12 or 13 when I walked in on him masturbating. I was calm and understanding and I simply dropped it, but I didn't want to stir anything with him. Well, it turns out I didn't learn my lesson. 3 weeks ago my son turned 16 and he has been much less confined in his room since. He has spent more time with me watching movies and even tolerating his little sister. I had grown to be slightly less avoiding over the 3 weeks, knowing that I was okay with him actually speaking to me. Yesterday, around noon, I began to walk towards my son's room, wanting to invite him to eat with his sister and me out on the porch. I was making a small lunch for us, and seeing this happiness near us makes me eager to have him try it. I skipped knocking and instead reached for the handle and twisted it without regard. Taking a step into the room, I looked up to see an image I will never forget. He was standing in front of his computer screen, a belt around his neck, tight, one hand pulling it into the air, choking himself, his other hand on his penis, jerking vigorously. And on the screen in front of him, some sort of MILF ex-son pornography. His small speaker quietly playing, quote-unquote, "Mommy, Mommy please." And to top it all off, when he looked over to me, instead of screaming or jumping, he stared at me in the eyes. His face was bright red from the belt, and he blew his load directly onto his computer screen. Without saying a word, I rushed out of the room, slammed the door, and speed walked out into the hallway, stopping and leaning against the wall. He didn't come out of his room for 6 hours, and when he did, he just grabbed a bag of chips and returned to his room, very embarrassed.
Jeez.
And that's my story. That's story time.
That one's got me.
Is that?
That's a
Is this a story about anyone in particular?
no. That was about me. That's about me. That story's about me.
Gee whiz. Is it a manager Q&A?